We have talked about domestication of animals by humans already, and now we need to revisit that issue in a slightly different way in terms of our impact on climate through fossil fuel emissions and, of course, habitat changes, deforestation, urbanization, agriculture, etc. In terms of what extinction impacts we may be having on species now in the modern climate, modern human, how are we potentially driving extinctions of several species? So I just threw in this previous mass extinctions for some sort of introduction. Mass extinction is a sharp spike in the rate of extinction of species caused by a catastrophic event or rapid environmental change. So we are doing rapid environmental change. Scientists have been able to identify 5 mass extinctions in Earth's history, each of which led to a loss of more than 75% of animal species at that time. But of course you have to see that each time there's an extinction there is a recovery, and people argue that the biodiversity has basically increased through time with the extinction events opening new niches. So when we use the narrative of sixth extinction being caused by humans, we have to keep in mind that maybe nature does something else with it. We may go extinct, but I mean, we are driving, let's say, potentially extinction of many species, but maybe we are also favoring overall longer-term biodiversity increase. Obviously, such talk will not go well with people who are worried about what we are doing, but what does nature do when we kick it? That's something we have to still worry about. So this is number of genera. Instead of looking at species, you look at genera, because even if one species of that genera or family is alive, then that family can be assumed to be around at the time. So coming out of the Cambrian into the boundary of Ordovician Silurian, there is the first Ordovician Silurian extinction 440 million years ago. I won't go into the details of why it happened, but I'll show a slide next which shows that these debates about exactly how extinctions happen in the end. Let's say meteorite crash happened, but is it the initial impact that killed the dinosaurs? Is it the dust loading that was thrown up by the impact that created the extinction of, that drove the extinction of dinosaurs, or were there diseases that evolved after everything happened? So did dinosaurs survive the initial impact and then die because of the diseases emerging out of such an impact, and so on and so forth. So leaving that, let's look at the second Devonian extinction 365 million years ago. Here this is critical period where ocean algae colonized land, started to grow into Silurian vascular plants and drew down CO2 and created snowball Earth episodes by doing that, and they put away a lot of hydrocarbon under the earth and created coal. Most of the coal we burn is around from this time, for example. So loss was 86%, here 75%. Permian Triassic extinction 252 million years ago. You can see that was a big one, 96% loss. So that's the PT extinction. The Triassic Jurassic extinction 201.3 million years ago, 80% loss there. The fifth extinction, Cretaceous Paleogene extension, this is 66 million years ago that we most talk about. The Cretaceous Paleogene extinction wiped out the dinosaurs along with 60 to 76% of all life on Earth, which is what the number is here. A widely accepted theory is that an asteroid landed in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico and killed the dinosaurs. The impact would have rejected enormous amount of debris into the atmosphere, causing global temperature to drop. The impact may have also caused local fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, and acid rain. Okay, so this already gets into the Cenozoic and what we are doing. So the Holocene extinction 11,000 years ago to present. So the next mass extinction may already be happening. The current extinction rate is at least 8,000 times greater than the normal extinction rate. So considering the definition of mass extinction, this argues that we meet this definition. A normal or background extinctional rate is the average rate of extinction based on the longevity of species through time without human influences. So in a natural system, species change anyways, so that we have to figure out as a natural rate. Determined by fossil record, scientists believe that humans' impact on the environment is the leading cause of extinction today. Okay, so just to add a little bit more detail, again looking at these 5 extinctions without going into the modern extinction, we are talking about marine invertebrate global diversity curve, which drops but recovers, drops and recovers, and we are here the highest over these post-Cambrian periods. So the paper here, long and large, from Gondwana Research, argues that there is an isotopic evidence that selenium in parts per million in the seafloor pyrite always drops just before the mass extinctions. Okay, so selenium abundances in the oceans over the past 550 million years. Note severe depletion of this vital trace element at 3 major extinction events, which are shown in these red triangles. Actually, they are also here, suggesting this was a possible factor in these extinctions. Okay, that's a author large and long and large. I'm sorry about that, but the point they make is that in the modern time, selenium is very critical trace element that is associated strongly with diseases, including AIDS. So their argument potentially is that the drop in selenium by multiple orders very quickly would lead to a collapse of the food web in terms of the phytoplankton not surviving the drop and getting sick, and primary production dropping, and then the food chain dropping as well, in addition to maybe disease pressure due to these selenium drops. There is a lot of literature on disease pressure of global warming as well. As temperatures increase, some pathogens are favored, and extreme events can spread them as well. So floods and droughts can have an impact on health. Usually we worry about our health, but also other species. So coming back to domestication in this context, we domesticated animals, and there is evidence that something like broiler chicken has seriously changed its morphology, if not genotype, due to human consumption and breeding of the broiler chicken for more meat, heavy meat, thick meat, etc., juicy meat, whatever, right? So from Visual Capitalist, I take this again so we'll look at a timeline. Through this timeline uses archaeological findings as a base. Genomic sequencing is also used to narrow down domestication event timelines. Domestication is still being researched, with new archaeological and genomic discoveries constantly shaking up timelines. So dogs, for example, are supposed to be a combination of multiple species of wolves, for example. Many other animals have been domesticated that aren't included in this timeline, such as donkeys, pigeons, rats, and goldfish. You remember the messenger doves. Domestication timeline estimates vary by thousands of years. The domestic duck, for example, is also thought to have been domesticated more than 4,000 years ago from the mallard in Southeast Asia. So humans have domesticated animals for materials, work, and companionships all around the world. Leather, for example, and other materials derived from then. So starting with 34,000 before Common Era to 13,000 before Common Era, dog has been a companion. When did each animal get domesticated? Through exact dating, though exact dating is tricky and ongoing, this timeline highlights the domestication periods of some animals based on archaeological findings. So domesticated animals fall into roughly 3 categories, though many animals fall under multiple categories. Pets kept as companions. I think in fact in French pet is animal de compagnie, something that accompanies you. Livestock farmed for food or materials, and work utilized for labor or transportation like horses, oxes, and other animals used for plowing and carrying loads. 15,000 before Common Era. What does domestic mean? Sorry, I'm somehow having trouble reading properly. Though many animals have been tamed through history, a domesticated animal generally follows most of these criteria. Genetically distinct from their wild ancestors and more human-friendly as a genetic trait, so they've been selected already for that, are dependent on humans for food, partially, or for reproduction, so they don't go hunting, gathering on their own, they just rely on humans to provide them food. Extremely difficult or impossible to breed with the wild counterparts. Most of them show the physical traits of domestication syndrome, such as smaller skulls, floppy ears, or coat color variations. So when the function of the brain is reduced, for example, not looking for food but relying on being provided, can affect the brain, and you can have changes in brain size and structure. Okay, so by 10,000 BCE we were having the agricultural society doing all these things. So by 9,000 BCE we have sheep, goat at 8,500, pig and cow at 8,300, cats at 7,500. Obviously domestic animals. Now there is an issue that cats have led to extinction of more birds than anybody else, because they keep hunting and killing birds, so they are not as cute and fluffy and nice as you think. They have the intrinsic evolutionary instinct to go hunt birds, and that's not always a good thing. 6,000 BCE, the Zebu, which is a humped cow found in Madagascar and other parts. Okay, so adding a few more here. 5,000 BC onwards, we have a llama, 4,000 BC in South America, horse at 3,500 BC, alpaca at 3,000 BC, again in South America, Bactrian camel, so it has got a double hump at 2,500 BC, chicken at 2,000 BC, very recent comparatively, Arabian camel with a single hump around 1,000 BC, so just in the last millennium. Sorry, in the last three, so 1000 BCE is about 3000 years before present. Turkey now, and duck at 1000 CE as well. So in this context, there is always the struggle on how many species may be going extinct. There are many studies projecting into the future saying how many birds will decline, how many birds will go extinct, and so on. I'll come back to this later on again, but here are some estimates from this report. So there are some data deficient situations, least concern, threatened, and extinct or extinct in the wild. So mammals, you can see number of species is not small here when you combine all three. Amphibians have been hammered very hard, so they are threatened. Birds have gone extinct or extinct in the wild, and they are threatened here. Reptiles, again, threatened heavily. Ray-finned fishes and cartilaginous fish are also threatened or gone extinct. Snails and slugs, insects, bivalves, selected crustaceans, and so on. Obviously, the numbers are not precise, because these are estimates based on surveys and so on, and there are always reports of how a bird that was thought to be extinct was seen again, tortoise that was thought to be extinct was found again, and so on and so forth. So baselines are always very critical to see what has gone extinct. And when you say extinct, we are not now talking in terms of the rate of drop or the number of species or the percentage of species disappearing, but we are talking here now about evidence of its existence having not been found for a while. And again, the surprising thing is that some birds not seen since the 1920s are suddenly seen again, and so on and so forth. So that's just a broad overview of previous extinctions and what we are doing over the Holocene. Okay, we'll come back to this topic again later on.